What's up, future self and random people of the internet? I just decided I want to start journaling my trades and see how that goes. So I plan to put up a video at least every Sunday of me analyzing the market and reviewing the trades that I took. I think maybe some midday in the week I might put up another one because I do relook at the chart and do different things to consider what trades I'm going to take, but might not do that, but at least every Sunday. So I only took one trade last week. There were two that I could have potentially taken and a third that I thought about, but it just didn't have clean market structure. I'm going to go through the three that I didn't take first, and then I'll go through the one that I did take. So the first one that I did not take was GBP CHF. I just didn't take it because there was such a strong level here. I did like the fact that on the daily it pushed up and it pushed up kind of aggressively with some good momentum, and of course it had come off of its like daily support level. But I also kind of realized, like, over here, yeah, they push up with some momentum, but that doesn't guarantee that they hit. Now, I personally think that eventually this thing is going to break out, and once it breaks out, it's going to have a good push to wherever it goes. I also think that with the weekly being bearish, it's possible that it continues to come up and push down, or from this area, because look at how the weekly ended with a wick. It could just push down and continue. I don't really know. I think it just would have been a risky trade just because of the fact that, yeah, it's bullish, it pushes up, but it's not a huge guarantee, and there's probably better trades that can be taken. So when we go down to a lower time frame, we see that like it's a decent risk to reward. It's 2.29, but I want to aim for a 1 to 3. So for this particular one, I would have considered coming here and having a risk to reward like that. Clearly, this is over a 1 to 3, but that just made it a super, super high risk. And given what I just said, like sometimes it just wicks and comes back down, I didn't really want to risk it like that. So I didn't. You can see that it hit TP either way, which would have been up there, but it just wasn't something that I was willing to risk. We go to GBP NZD. This one, literally the reason I didn't take it was right there. It does not have clean lower time frame market structure. So when we go to the weekly, it's bullish. When we go to the daily, I considered it bullish, but you could consider it bearish. Either way, there's a support level right there. So this thing comes back down. I see that the 4-hour shift structure. This means I can enter. So I go and I look for a place to enter. I'm like, well, all of this market structure is just no bueno. Could I technically enter? Sure. But it doesn't look good, so I'm just not interested in taking it. So I didn't. I just plopped, that thing there and let it play out however it saw fit. Here again, we see it's under a 1 to 3. Obviously, it would have maybe made it to a 1 to 3 if this didn't take me out, but I think the spread on that would have tapped me out anyway. But yeah, this is a trade that I thought about taking because of the lack of clean market structure on lower time frames. I didn't take this. All right, so this is the last pair of something that I didn't take. So it's NZDCAD. We got the weekly bearish. We have this area that price kind of rejected from. You can ignore this, by the way. This gets updated like once a week. I don't actually continue to update it, so just ignore that. But we came down here, and I said, okay, this is... oh, that's interesting. Well, for whatever reason, I decided that this was bearish, even though it's not. This didn't close above, so NZDCAD was still bullish, and this is why it's great to review your trades as well, but I decided that it was bearish. Okay, cool, whatever. Here, we don't have any zones for real besides, like, the ones that are already marked, so I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking this thing is going to continue to drop, I guess. We see here that, like, we have a rejection candlestick, we have a rejection candlestick, and when we go back to the weekly, it would be perfectly fine, perfectly normal if this thing dropped to continue this bearish trend. So it is bullish on the daily. That's something that I missed. Not really sure how I missed that. It's very clearly bullish, but something that I missed nonetheless, and I continued to go down. So the only reason that I did not take this initial trade is because of that fat spread. So when we go down to a lower time frame and just try to look at this initial trade, it would have lost barely if I wasn't paying attention. Generally, I try to set, I try to set alerts like here-ish and then have a few going down just so I know, like, okay, it's approaching, it's almost there, it's tapped, whatever. And then I would probably have the TP set here just because of how it looks. But it might have not tapped. And so it could have very easily done this and went to a losing trade. At this point, I probably would have put the stops to break even. But just the fact that it missed by like less than a pip is kind of insane. So this would have been the trade. I would have tried to hop in, but as you can see, the stop loss was only 4.6 pips and the spread was pretty much the same, actually a little bit more. And so I wasn't going to get in with such a fat spread. So since it had a fat spread, that stopped me from getting into this one, which honestly probably would have just got me at break even if we're being realistic. I think I probably would have missed the TP and been like, man, but it got so close, so let me put it at break even because, yada, yada, yada. Moving along. Over here, there's literally 3 things over here. I knew that this was coming back up and that if I was going to take the trade, it was going to bounce down. But I was unsure how I wanted to get into this market. So I saw it push. I saw the initial push down. I said, okay, it has an initial push down. How would I like to get into this market? Well, if you see over here, this thing did not come back. Okay, this would have been a good entry that I would have been confident in. It comes back, barely misses it, drops all the way down through TP. Once again, when it does that, I'm not about to leave that there and hope for the best. I guess in this case, it would have went to TP again, but no, I need another actual entry. So I didn't do that. I came over here, and when I saw it, there's a lot going on. When I saw it come close to back up here, I was like, okay, you can get in this trade. I was like, okay, you can get in this trade, but it has to make sense, right? So structure shifted, which was good for me. And then I was like, but where is it going to make the most sense? I could get in here. This makes a very tight stop loss, but it could easily be tapped out and then still be a proper trade. But I just, I might not get it because I might have been stopped out. So I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to do that. Then I came over here. I said, okay, this could work, right? It could come up and tap here, which in this case it did, and continued to go. And that's also how the other one would have got tapped out. But I didn't want to be like, well, I can just, wait and hopefully it taps, because sometimes things don't tap, and you'll actually see that on the next trade. So this one it tapped and it went, but I just was like, I can't guarantee that it's going to tap, so why would I do a trade like that? And if it does tap, how do I know that it's not just shooting through? Which, when you're doing limits and whatnot, you don't know that it's not going to just shoot through anyway. But I don't know. At that point, I was just like, eh. And then finally, this one, which personally I think was the best option. I liked where the stop loss on this one was because it was kind of over the zone and it had not tapped the zone yet. But I also liked this stop loss because it was over the high, and that's kind of how you know it was wrong. So yeah, it could wick up and tap the zone and take this out, but if it's wicking up there might be a chance that it comes against us anyway. So I don't know. I just had 3 entries that I could have done, and I wasn't sure which one to choose at that point. So I just didn't get in. I just watched to see what played out. So like thinking back on this trade, there was another trade that I didn't take where the zone would have won if I put my stop loss there. But if I had put the stop loss above like the low, it wasn't going to win. So I think that got in my head a little bit when it came to this one, because realistically, both of these would have been okay entries and it would have been covered. So this is probably the one that I should have went with. As you can see here though, where I was trying to get for TP, it's only 2.86 and that's pushing it. It's not that 1 to 3 that I like to have. It did end up obviously going higher than a 1 to 3, but when I want that 1 to 3, I want it 1 to 3 and then some. Like it has potential to go to a 1 to 4, a 1 to 3 point, whatever this went to, 1 to 3.31, and then maybe like, okay, yeah, but I can just cut it off at a 1 to 3. Here, I didn't think it had that potential. Like, could it have done it? Yes. Did it do it? Obviously, but I was projecting a 2.86. So, wasn't 1 to 3. Was it close? Sure, but I just didn't want to risk it, especially with not knowing the stop loss. So, So finally, we have the trade that I did take. As you can see here, I have a little note, slowing down likely because of the time, but I don't want to be greedy. So I exited the trade. Down here, it says not clean price action. Again, this is what I was looking at on Sunday. So with this trade, I just saw a lot of downside potential, to be honest with you, right? Like USDCAD has been this high before, but it's been a long time. So it hasn't been that high in a minute. And it looked like it had potential for falling. So we had this huge wick, and a rejection from this area. This area is kind of where it was consolidating and sandwiching in. So in my opinion, there were two places that you could have hopped in. You could have hopped in up here, which I didn't like a whole lot because I felt, this area, although it's meh, it might have a little bit more historical purpose. Let's go back and look, actually, because I'm not sure that I did that. So yeah, we got some wicks there. So honestly, the other area was probably just as good. Clearly, it did something there, but I didn't want to get in. I wanted to wait until it was under there. So I waited. This was annoying. Just kept consolidating. Waited. Eventually, it pushed underneath. So two areas, I guess, that I could have taken it from. This was one that I was kind of looking at after the fact. I did not take this trade at all. I was just trying to figure out, okay, if I wanted to take this trade, could it have been possible, so on and so forth. It could have been possible. Clearly, it didn't even tap in, but I wasn't looking to take that trade. This is the actual trade that I took. So, again, weekly, daily, pushing. We came underneath this daily level. I'm looking at the weekly. There's so much downside potential. Even if it just stopped here, there's so much downside potential. And I went down to the 4 hour to see what was happening there. Let me get this out of here. Went down to see what was happening there. Waited for that pullback. It broke underneath. Had a pullback. So if you look over here, it breaks underneath, but the pullback's up to this zone. Again, could have figured something out here. Didn't want to. Breaks underneath. Has a pullback. The pullback is not as close as this zone. Like, it still pushes down. It is bearish. Breaks underneath just a little bit more. Comes back. Perfectly taps me in. We go into a little bit of drawdown, whatever. And then it just goes. And I got out 75% at a 1 to 3 because, honestly, I had a few losing trades the week before. And I didn't want to be greedy or anything. And then I got the rest out here because this is where it sort of started to slow down. And I knew it was likely because of the time. Like, look, it's 6:30. So I knew it was likely because of the time that it was slowing down. And honestly, I kind of wanted to keep it for a 1 to 5 because that would have been my biggest trade yet. But I was like, I need to not be greedy. I need to be realistic about this. If this was just some random trade, I was up, X amount of percent for the month and it didn't really matter, then yeah, sure, fine, whatever. But right now, we're trying to get back to break even. I'm still negative 1% for these past 2 months just because of the silliness that I was doing with my trades. So now it's time to lock back in. it's time to lock back in. Literally, if I win one trade, I'll be up. But yeah, won't lie to you, it was a little rough. So I'm going to go ahead and analyze these charts, and then I guess I'll make a second video. So this is going to be a 2-video thing. We're going to have a review, and then we're going to have what I plan on looking for in the market up and coming.